What happens when a police chief's daughter walks into Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom, pulls out her phone in the middle of a hearing, and calls her father expecting him to rescue her? The answer includes a shocking speakerphone moment, a father who publicly refuses to protect his own child, and a powerful lesson in accountability that spreads across the internet. If you believe that a parent in law enforcement should never place someone above the law, stay with this story, because what you're about to hear is one of the most devastating phone calls ever made in a courtroom. It's a quiet weekday morning in Providence Municipal Court. Judge Frank Caprio is working through the docket when the bailiff announces the next case, the state of Rhode Island versus Ashley Morrison. The courtroom doors open, and a young woman steps inside with the confidence of someone who has never truly faced consequences. Ashley Morrison moves toward the defendant's table dressed in expensive athleisure wear, designer leggings, a crop top, and a luxury puffer jacket. Her hair is perfectly styled, her makeup flawless, and a high-end handbag hangs from her arm, worth more than many people earn in a month. But what stands out most isn't her appearance. It's her attitude. She's glued to her phone, texting as she walks, never looking up, never acknowledging the judge, and showing no awareness of where she is. Judge Caprio watches calmly, the way only someone with decades on the bench can. He waits until Ashley reaches the table before speaking. He politely asks her to put her phone away, because the hearing is about to begin. Ashley looks up briefly, raises one finger in a dismissive, "just a second" gesture, finishes typing, and sends the message with an exaggerated tap. She slips the phone into her pocket without apologizing or acknowledging the disrespect. She looks at the judge as if her presence alone is a favor. Her attorney, a public defender named Marcus Chen, stands beside her looking visibly uncomfortable. He leans in and whispers something urgent, but Ashley waves him off without concern. Judge Caprio opens the file. He informs Ashley Morrison that she is charged with driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, leaving the scene of an accident, and failure to render aid. He explains that these charges come from an incident that occurred earlier that month, and asks if she understands what she is being charged with. Ashley shrugs and casually responds that it's all a misunderstanding her father will straighten out. Judge Caprio slowly removes his glasses, a gesture familiar to anyone who knows his courtroom. He calmly clarifies that he didn't agree with the charges, only whether she understood them. Ashley replies that she understands, but thinks everything has been blown out of proportion. The judge tells her her opinion isn't relevant at this moment. He then turns to the prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Rachel Foster, and asks her to present the facts. Foster stands and begins detailing the incident. She explains that witnesses observed Ashley driving erratically near the university area, weaving between lanes, nearly hitting parked cars, and running a red light at a major intersection. Ashley interrupts loudly, dismissing the witnesses as drunk college students who didn't know what they were seeing. Judge Caprio immediately stops her and warns that she will not interrupt again. He makes it clear that another interruption will result in contempt of court. Ashley rolls her eyes but stays quiet. The prosecutor continues, explaining that Ashley's vehicle struck a legally parked car belonging to a graduate student named Sarah Chen. The impact was severe enough to deploy airbags and cause significant damage. Judge Caprio asks what happened after the collision. Foster explains that Ashley exited her vehicle, appeared disoriented, and examined the damage. When Sarah Chen came outside after hearing the crash and asked if Ashley was okay, Ashley allegedly told her to stay away and mind her own business. Ashley mutters under her breath. Judge Caprio fixes her with a sharp look, but allows the prosecutor to continue. According to the report, when Sarah Chen tried to call emergency services, Ashley grabbed her phone and threw it into the street, smashing it. Despite her own vehicle being disabled, Ashley then called a ride service and left the scene without providing insurance information or waiting for police. The courtroom fills with shocked whispers. Several people shake their heads in disbelief. Judge Caprio leans forward and confirms that Ashley left the scene while under the influence after damaging someone else's property. The prosecutor confirms this and adds that witnesses provided license plate information. Officers later went to Ashley's residence, where she initially denied any involvement in the incident. Judge Caprio asks if Sarah Chen is present to testify. A young woman wearing simple clothing and glasses stands from the gallery and walks nervously to the witness stand. She is sworn in as Judge Caprio thanks her for being there and prepares to hear her testimony. Please tell the court what happened that night. Sarah Chen takes a steady breath before speaking. She explains that she was studying in her apartment when a violent crash echoed through the street. Looking out the window, she saw that a car had slammed into hers. She rushed downstairs, worried the driver might be injured. When she reached the street, she saw Ms. Morrison standing beside her vehicle. The airbags had gone off. Sarah says it was immediately obvious something was wrong. Ms. Morrison's speech was slurred. She struggled to keep her balance, and the smell of alcohol was strong. Sarah asked if she was hurt, but instead of answering, Ms. Morrison snapped at her to back off. It was none of her business. Concerned for everyone's safety, Sarah pulled out her phone to call emergency services. Before she could even finish dialing, Ms. Morrison grabbed the phone from her hand and hurled it into the street. The screen shattered on impact. Sarah's voice trembles slightly as she continues. She says she was stunned and asked why Miss Morrison would do that. Miss Morrison allegedly responded that she didn't need police involved, claimed her father was the police chief, and said he would take care of everything. Then she called a rideshare and left the scene. She never shared insurance information and never once asked if Sarah was okay. Judge Caprio's expression hardens. He asks about the damage to Sarah's vehicle. Sarah explains that the entire passenger side was destroyed and the car was declared a total loss. She says that vehicle was everything to her. As a graduate student working part-time, it was her only way to get to work, classes, and her research lab. Since the crash, she's been relying on public transportation, adding hours to her daily commute, and making life significantly harder. Judge Caprio thanks her for her testimony and acknowledges how difficult the experience has been. As Sarah returns to her seat, he turns his attention to Ashley. He asks whether she disputes any of the facts that were just presented. Ashley stands without being invited to speak, her tone sharp and irritated. She claims the witness is exaggerating. She admits to having drinks earlier in the evening, but insists she wasn't drunk. She minimizes the crash, says she barely touched the car, and argues that the damage to her own luxury vehicle was worse. She flatly denies grabbing the phone, saying it was dropped instead. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. The casual dishonesty and total lack of remorse are unmistakable. Judge Caprio speaks quietly, but his words carry authority. He tells Ashley that multiple witnesses saw her grab and throw the phone, and that their statements are documented in the police report. He asks her directly if she's accusing all of them of lying. Ashley crosses her arms and shrugs it off, saying people see what they want to see, especially when someone with a nice car is involved. Judge Caprio immediately counters, pointing out that the person with the nice car was driving under the influence and destroyed someone else's vehicle. Ashley insists again that she wasn't drunk and downplays how much she drank. The judge leans back and reminds her that when officers came to her home later, she refused a breath test. Ashley snaps back that it would have been pointless by then. Or, Judge Caprio suggests calmly, because she knew she had been driving under the influence and wanted time for the alcohol to leave her system. Ashley's face flushes with anger. She accuses the court of twisting everything and calls the situation unfair. Judge Caprio's patience is clearly thinning. He explains what's truly unfair: a graduate student losing her only means of transportation because of a drunk driver. What's unfair is that the victim has been struggling daily while Ashley has shown no remorse at all. And what's most unfair is invoking a father's position as if it grants immunity from consequences. Ashley clenches her fists and insists that her father, the police chief, understands how things work and knows the whole case is ridiculous. Judge Caprio pauses, then delivers words that freeze the room. Does he? He looks directly at Ashley and offers something no one expects. He tells her to call her father right now, on speakerphone, so the court can hear what the police chief thinks about her behavior. The courtroom goes dead silent. Ashley's attorney jumps to object, but Judge Caprio shuts him down and tells him to sit. He explains that he's simply giving Ashley exactly what she's been asking for. Turning back to her, the judge points out that she's already invoked her father multiple times. If she's so certain of his support, she can call him now. Ashley's confident expression fades into uncertainty. After a long pause, she hesitates and says, doesn't think she should bother him during work hours. You were already planning to involve him, weren't you? Judge Caprio says calmly. You told this court he would take care of it, so let's see how he plans to do that. Call him now, Miss Morrison, or I'll assume you were never telling the truth about his support. Ashley hesitates, then slowly pulls out her phone. Her fingers tremble as she scrolls through her contacts, clearly trying to delay the moment. At last, she taps her father's name and switches the call to speaker. The phone rings. Once, twice, a third time, the entire courtroom leans forward. Ashley. A man's voice comes through deep and commanding, edged with concern. What's wrong? You know I'm in a meeting. Ashley's tone suddenly sounds smaller, almost childlike. Dad, I'm in court with Judge Caprio. He wants to talk to you. There's a brief silence. You're in court right now? About the accident? Yes. And Dad, this judge is being completely unfair. He's saying I was drunk. Ashley, stop. Her father's voice turns sharp. Let me speak to Judge Caprio. Judge Caprio leans toward the phone resting on the table. Chief Morrison, this is Judge Frank Caprio. Your daughter is facing serious charges, including driving under the influence, reckless endangerment, leaving the scene of an accident, destruction of property, and failure to render aid. I'm aware of the charges. Your Honor. The chief replies, his voice controlled but tense. Your daughter has mentioned your name repeatedly this morning. Judge Caprio continues. She appears to believe that your position should influence how this case is handled. I wanted to give you the opportunity to address that directly. A long pause follows. Ashley stares at the phone, clearly expecting her father to come to her defense. When Chief Morrison finally speaks, his voice is heavy, weighed down by something that sounds like disappointment. Your Honor, my daughter is an adult. She's responsible for her own decisions, and she must face the consequences of those decisions, just like anyone else who breaks the law. Ashley's face drains of color. Dad, what are you? Be quiet and listen. He cuts in firmly. He continues, his voice steady but strained. I've served as a police officer for decades. I've arrested drunk drivers. I've seen the wreckage they leave behind and the lives they destroy. When my daughter chose to drive under the influence, damage someone's car, and flee the scene, she didn't just break the law. She betrayed everything I've spent my career standing for. The courtroom is completely still. No one moves as a father publicly refuses to shield his own child. The morning after the crash, Chief Morrison goes on. 2 of my officers went to my home to question Ashley. She lied to them. She denied any involvement. When they showed evidence that her car was in a repair shop with front-end damage, she claimed she hit a pole. She looked my officers, my colleagues, straight in the eye and lied again and again. Dad, please. Ashley whispers, her voice breaking. I'm not finished, he says firmly. When I confronted her privately, she finally admitted what she'd done. But instead of remorse, she told me I was overreacting and said I could make it disappear. That's when I realized I'd failed as a father. I raised someone who believed my badge gave her permission to break the law without consequences. Judge Caprio speaks softly. Chief Morrison, what are you telling this court? I'm telling you that I support whatever sentence you believe is appropriate. Your Honor? He replies without hesitation. I will not use my position to help her. I will not make calls, apply pressure, or ask for leniency. She drove drunk. She destroyed someone else's property. She fled the scene. She lied to the police. She must be held fully accountable. Ashley is crying now, her earlier arrogance completely gone. Dad, you can't do this to me, she pleads. I'm your daughter. Chief Morrison's voice cracks. And you're my greatest disappointment. I love you, Ashley, but I won't enable you anymore. For years I made excuses for you. I smoothed things over when you got into trouble. I used my connections to pull you out of situations you created for yourself. All I taught you was that the rules didn't apply to you. That ends today, but I'll go to jail. Ashley sobs. Maybe you should, he replies quietly. Maybe that's what it takes for you to finally understand that actions have consequences. He pauses, then adds, Judge Caprio, thank you for calling me. I apologize that my daughter wasted the court's time by claiming I would interfere with justice. Please proceed with your ruling. Judge Caprio responds with respect. Chief Morrison, what you just did took more courage than most parents ever show. Your daughter is fortunate to have a father who loves her enough to let her face the consequences. Thank you, Your Honor, the chief says. Then, softer, Ashley, I will always love you. But right now, I'm ashamed of you. Serve your sentence. Learn from this. One day I hope you'll understand why I did this. The line goes dead. Ashley collapses into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Her attorney places a hand on her shoulder, but she shrugs it away. The courtroom remains silent, everyone absorbing what they just witnessed. A police chief choosing justice over protecting his own child. Judge Caprio pauses before speaking, his voice carrying the weight of decades on the bench. Ms. Morrison, your father just gave you a gift, even if you can't see it right now. He gave you accountability. He gave you a chance to become better than you've been. Most parents in his position would have protected you, enabled you, made excuses for you. Your father chose the harder path because he loves you enough to let you face the truth. Ashley doesn't respond, her face buried in her hands. Now, Judge Caprio continues, I will deliver my sentence. For driving under the influence, Ashley is sentenced to time in the Providence County Correctional Facility. For leaving the scene of an accident, additional time is added to be served consecutively. Her driver's license is suspended for several years. She is ordered to pay full restitution for the destroyed vehicle and additional compensation for the damaged phone. Judge Caprio isn't finished. Ashley is required to complete hundreds of hours of community service working with victims of drunk driving. She must attend mandatory substance abuse treatment. For years to come, she will report regularly to a probation officer to ensure full compliance with every condition of the sentence. Her attorney attempts to object, but Judge Caprio raises his hand. I'm imposing this sentence not because I'm being unfair as you claimed, but because you endangered lives, destroyed property, lied to police, and showed no remorse until your father refused to rescue you. This sentence is meant to teach you what years of privilege failed to teach, that your actions affect others, that the law applies to everyone equally, and that real love sometimes means letting people face consequences. The gavel comes down. As the bailiff approaches to take Ashley into custody, Judge Caprio adds one final remark. Ms. Morrison, your father said he's ashamed of you. I hope you use your time in custody to become someone he can be proud of again. What he did today, choosing justice over protection, that is what real integrity looks like. Learn from it. Within hours, the speakerphone call goes viral. Chief Morrison's decision earns national recognition as an example of leadership rooted in principle. Ashley serves her full sentence, and when she is released months later, she is changed, humbled, remorseful, and finally understanding the lesson her father tried to teach her. She writes a heartfelt letter to Sarah Chen, offering a sincere apology and paying additional expenses beyond what the court required. She completes her community service alongside families devastated by drunk driving. Slowly and painfully, she rebuilds her relationship with her father, this time based on honesty rather than entitlement. Years later, Ashley stands before a high school assembly. She plays the audio of that courtroom phone call for the students. That's my dad choosing what was right instead of what was easy, she tells them. That phone call saved my life. It taught me that nobody, not even a police chief's daughter, is above consequences. If you believe having a parent in law enforcement should never place someone above the law, subscribe. If Chief Morrison's choice moved you, share this story, because real love sometimes means letting people face the truth. Justice served, truth revealed.